Hey YouTube, this is Mindtech. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Thrustmaster T80 racing wheel that works with the PS4 and with the PC. This wheel offers a lot of versatility at quite a low price point, but it does have some compromises that I think you should consider before you decide to purchase this wheel. So the first thing I'd like to address is the fact that this works well with both PC and PlayStation 4. Although it does have PlayStation 4 branding and it does use the symbols on the buttons that would suggest that it is only a PlayStation controller, Thrustmaster does provide drivers on their website that have worked very well in all of the games that I've tried on my PC. As long as the game that you're playing supports a racing wheel, it just automatically detects it and you can customize it to your heart's extent. Now, before I get into the things that I love about this wheel, I would like to talk about some of the cons. First and foremost, it only rotates 180 degrees, meaning that you cannot use it as a wheel like with most other racing wheels or what you'd find in like a car. So if you're trying to do like a big turn or something, it only goes out this far. But I found that most games support you just going and pushing it to the maximum position, and then it starts to go and do a full turn. But it is kind of disappointing that it doesn't operate like an actual vehicle would. Now, the second thing is that this wheel does not have any force feedback from video games, meaning that it is a constant linear feedback that you get with this due to a bungee suspension system. And I think that this provides a fairly accurate representation of the amount of force that it would require to move a wheel. I know more expensive wheels have feedback that adjusts based on the characteristics of the road, and it also has vibration things that can really make you feel the road, but that is to be expected considering the price. In order to get a programmatically determined force feedback system, you're going to have to pay $300, $400, $500 just for a steering wheel. Now, the last thing to consider is that this does offer a relatively small wheel size. Now, some people might just say that that's a nitpick, and other people might even say that it's a nice feature to have a smaller wheel size. You know, it is easier to operate with one hand, but compared to an actual vehicle, it is quite smaller than what you would expect. But once you have played with it for a while, you do get used to the smaller size. But again, that is something that you might want to consider if you like playing with bigger wheels, or if you really think, you know, if you're trying to do hand-on-hand steering or something like that, that just is not going to be possible. Now, with those limitations in mind, I would like to go over some of the things that I really like about this wheel. First of all, I think that the pedals work incredibly nicely. They do have force feedback. A lot harder. And they also have a rubber stopper if you bottom out the pedal so that it doesn't make loud noise. I think that this is a very good analog to real life. The throttle pedal is a lot lighter than the brake pedal. They're a great size and I think that they travel a good distance. The only thing to consider about this, however, is that it is a light construction. Thrustmaster hasn't included like a steel plate or anything as a counterweight. So if you don't want this to topple over when you're trying to play your games, you are going to have to either put your foot on the surface here or add some sort of counterweight like a rock. One other thing that I love is all the buttons that Thrustmaster has included on the wheel body. There is a D-pad that I use for things like cruise control and going through menus. There is also a standard PlayStation type arrangement of buttons here that you can really assign to any function that you want depending on the game that you're using. And what I really love is that they have buttons embedded in the wheel body itself, which I use for things like headlights and turning signals. Especially if I'm in VR doing a racing simulator, I don't want to have to fiddle around with a keyboard or a mouse or anything to control my game. I want to be able to assign as many functions as I possibly can to the controller and get that muscle memory to know exactly where those would be. Other wheels that I've seen force functions on the buttons, like I saw one wheel that has an engine start button that's big and red and takes up a bunch of space. It makes it a lot harder for me to change that function. I also like that they have included pedal buttons on the sides of the wheel body. A dedicated gear shifter costs like $150 in itself, so it makes sense why Thrustmaster did not include that with this package. And I think that having shifters on the side here is a very good compromise. Actual vehicles do include column shifters like this, and once I have enabled the setting in games to use these to switch between gears, it has become very natural for me to do this, and it does not break the immersion at all. And one last thing I like about the T80 is this included desk mount. It is very simple to figure out how to use this. It is very well padded, and the actual mounts for the desk do rotate, so it makes it so that it can conform to different surfaces, you know, if you might have an uneven desk or something like that. Once you do get this nice and tight on your desk, it is incredibly sturdy. You know, you can really move the wheel very quickly with a lot of force and not have it move around on your desk at all. And plus it is compatible with a lot of different thicknesses of desk. I have really thin desks upstairs in my office, but downstairs I have quite thick desks, and it works perfectly fine with both of those desks. One thing to consider about this, however, is that it does take up some amount of space underneath your desk, and if you have something like a lip on your desk that prevents you from pushing this really far back, that might prevent you from being able to actually mount this, which could be a big issue of concern for you. I do like, however, though, that this does not require a dedicated piece of furniture to install. I like that you can easily just strap this right to your desk, plug in the USB cable, and start playing. And with that said, I would now like to go and do a demo of me playing with this Thrustmaster racing wheel in American Trucking Simulator. Alright, so I have American Truck Simulator loaded up here. This is the primary game that I purchased this steering wheel for, so that's why I'm going to be showing it off today, but I have also used it with Beam NG Drive, and it works very well with that game. I have already configured everything in the game. When I move my wheel, the wheel in the game also moves. So right now I have my hazards on, and I use the X button to do that. I forgot the pedal, so I'm going to hook that up right now also. Gonna make sure to support the pedal though, so it doesn't go all over the place. I'm also going to pop into drive, and we're off. So again, I really like the amount of feedback that you get with this pedal. It feels very natural, at least for me. And again, I can go and put on my turning signals. I also have a horn. Ooh, that one's the parking brake. I can also shift into neutral here, which, as you can see, stops the vehicle. I have all of those set up right on the side. Now, of course, this is mostly a freeway driving game. All you're really doing with the wheel is making fine little adjustments, like, you know, changing lanes. Alright, gonna go and take this exit. Alright, and I'm gonna make a right-hand turn here. Since I don't have my VR headset, can't really check to see whether or not I'm pulling into traffic. Oh, and I just flipped the semi over. It does have those bungee cords, like I mentioned before, that does give it some nice force feedback. But since I can only turn the wheel 180 degrees, I can't do like a U-turn or something like that. I'm going to attempt to do a U-turn here. Probably not the best idea to do something like this in real life. I have to keep that wheel there in the maximum position in order for it to actually turn, but it works. I mean, the turn does actually work. One other issue I've had specifically with ATS is that the wheel is slightly out of alignment. If I just leave it there like that, it isn't going completely straight, even though the wheel itself is obviously straight. I can make very light turns, which is nice. I only have to use a few fingers, but if I want to put both of my hands on the wheel and make fine adjustments like that, that does work also. Just a very immersive experience overall. Most of the time for American Trucking Simulator also, you're not going to have to make massive U-turns and stuff like that. So honestly, the degrees of freedom that the wheel gives you already is perfectly fine. Honestly, a really fun game to play with a steering wheel. Let's see, is it going to tip over or does it handle quite well? You know what, this thing is handling very well. So does the steering wheel. The steering wheel does handle quite well too. Who knew you could have so much fun in a trucking simulator? So there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching this review of the Thrustmaster T80 steering wheel. For the price, it offers a great value, and if you're a casual gamer like me who wants to possibly get into sim racing, it is something that I would recommend. A lot of customizability, a lot of versatility, and for what it's worth, it functions quite nicely. So again, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.